The civil service test tomorrow for the police chief in Shreveport.
Mr. Jim Taliaferro is joining us for a couple of minutes. Hey, Mr. Jim, how are you this morning?
Good morning, y'all. How are you?
Okay, so the test is tomorrow that you got to take if you even want the slightest chance or prayer to be police chief of the city of Shreveport. A test you have taken once or twice, as I recall. Help me out.
Well, I think in my last recall, I've taken it twice under three times under two different mayors.
Okay, let's start here. Erin says she could get at least without knowing anything about civil service law or the ins and outs, the day-to-day operation of a police department.
I could get a D.
She says she could get at least a 60 or a 65. I said, no freaking way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, and of course, I don't know what scale we're going to use as far as A, B, C, D, so because it changes so much. But it is a difficult test. There's nothing to be taken lightly about it. There are so many different categories that you're looking for. So I think, Aaron, I'm sorry, but you probably have a little bit of time taking the test and getting probably higher than a 65 with no police experience at all.
Okay, it's multiple choice though. I'm decent at guessing. I'm pretty good at test taking.
Sure, it's multiple guess, as we used to say in college. The concern about the test is that there are so many good answers. It's kind of like taking a military test that all answers are correct. You have to choose which one is the most correct. Not all those questions are formulated that way, but a good portion of them there are. So you have to really kind of know some of your stuff in some of those categories. You don't have to be strong in all of them, but you have to have a majority of a good knowledge of a majority of the questions.
I started to say she has some police experience. It's just from the wrong side of the cage.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to go into that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
it says you have to know 20% of the test is law enforcement management, and 20% is supervision. Isn't that the same thing?
Well, no, law enforcement management and supervision are a little bit different. Law enforcement management is more along the nuts and the bolts of what it takes to run a department, the fundamentals of running a department. Obviously, supervision is how well and what you know about supervising others. So it is a little bit different. I know it can be confusing on, kind of sounds the same, but they are two different separate categories. And, so they are different.
Give us, if you can, from memory, a little peek behind that test curtain. Do you remember any of the specific questions that were on the test either time you took it?
No, I do not. And because I'm one of those people that when I take a test, I can walk out of the test and you can say, hey, what do you think of question number whatever? And I'm thinking, I don't know, I forgot.
Well, how much studying did you do leading up to both times you took it? Is there a way to test, or is it just?
Yes.
So go ahead, tell me.
I took like most people. I didn't take anything for granted. I studied, months and months in advance because they give you they'll give you a list of books that you need to look into to help you with each category that they're going to ask you. It's up to you to determine what the level of studying you're going to do prior to that. A lot of cops, because they've been in the business for so long, get the law enforcement side of it. Most of them do very well on the law enforcement side. When you take the lieutenant's test, a lot of the questions from the lieutenant's test cross over to the chief's test and vice versa, because law enforcement is law enforcement no matter where you go. And the criminal justice is criminal justice no matter where you take a test. So, in answer to your question, that a lot of the questions were posed to specifically get you to be thinking in those different realms of what it takes to be an overall police manager, both in policy, policing, resources, and personnel.
Are you taking it tomorrow?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Typically,
I've entered to a new phase of life, and that is for something I would do very well, I think, because of my experience. However, I'm letting others take the realm and take the lead, and I'm going in a different direction.
Typically, the multiple choice portion begins, I believe, in the morning, like 9:30 or so.
Yes, ma'am.
And then they do a job simulation later in the day. Describe what that is.
Yeah, the job simulation is the practical experience. They'll give you, not everybody gets the same. So each officer will, I don't know how many there are, but each officer will get a situational problem, a scenario. And usually they're designed or they're developed from real world kind of situations. They'll get you a situation where you read, they'll give you a packet, and you'll read all the paperwork in this packet. And it's quite extensive. It may have a budgetary issue, it may have a civil issue, it may have a civil unrest issue, it may have it can vary across the board. And you're actually taking that packet and you're disseminating. I mean, you're actually trying to figure out exactly, one, what's the problem? Two, how would I solve the problem? And then from there, you go into a different phase, the last phase, in which you actually deliver your problem-solving model or your solution to a video camera, in which the video camera simulates being the city council, and you're giving this report to the city council on how best to solve that problem.
You had mentioned there's a lot of like management questions and operational questions and stuff like that. Looking back to when Steve Prater became chief, when he was just a sergeant, if you are, for lack of a better term, enlisted guy, shows how little I know about the police department, would that be,
right.
looking back at his being appointed chief from a position from the rank of sergeant, is that a lot more difficult mountain to climb because you're not an officer, you're not a lieutenant or a captain, something like that?
I don't think so. I think it just depends on the level of experience that an officer taking the test. When I say officer, I am talking across the rank structure. Depending on the level of responsibility that an officer, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain even, has had in his or her law enforcement career, either with the police department locally or, say, another law enforcement agency, or even in the military, that all factors into the level of competence that they feel that they have to be an administrator or the next, chief of police. So it's not a. I think what I'm saying is you cannot associate a rank with knowledge, because everybody comes from different world experiences. So it just depends on the world experiences that you bring to the table to address the concerns or address the categories that they're asking.
Jim, our last minute here. If Mayor Perkins were to call you and say, how important this test, how important should this test be to who the next chief is, what would you tell him?
Paramount. The one thing that I've always believed in is being a good role model and being one that can actually increase morale within the department. I'm always about a customer service, always has been. But our internal customers are the most important asset that we have. We can't take care of our external customers, you, the public, if we don't take care of our internal customers, our employees.
What does that have to do with the test, though?
It has a lot to do with the test, because a lot of that is personnel, how you manage personnel, what your philosophies are with managing and leading people. And that's paramount. And so you ask me if what the mayor would consider being, important. That is one of the important things on how well do you lead and how well do you actually give that vote of confidence to the people that you're entrusted to lead. So knowledge is great. Practical experience is always great. I think greater. So it really, what we're looking for is a well-rounded a leader in not only the police department, the fire department, whatever. And that's what the test and the oral portion is designed to kind of hopefully give the mayor a snapshot. It's not the end all be all, but it gives the mayor a snapshot of what kind of person he wants to be the next leader of the police department.